What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Going the Distance podcast presented by ImmaculateSports.com. Twitter's at ImmaCSports.
Instagram is also at ImmaCSports.
TikTok, YouTube, Immaculate Sports. It's episode 272. And this is going to be a fun episode once again because we got a lot to talk about. Mostly NFL today. We're heading into week 15. Only 4 games left. But we'll make sure to touch on everything that's important because we had a busy week.
Yeah, all over the place this past week. Ton of MLB news, it feels like, whether that be the draft lottery or just free agent signings that we've seen. Obviously, NFL crazy week, and college football. That happened as well, too. So we'll talk about it all. Getting started with the opener. I'll let Skyler go ahead and get us started here.
Yeah, championship weekend in college football. It was amazing. I feel like, we have an extra week before the playoffs start, so we don't need to be making any predictions yet. But since it's mostly an NFL video, why don't we talk about college first here for a little bit? Because it was ridiculous on Friday and Saturday night. We got that Duke-Virginia game we were looking for. Duke wins in a crazy overtime game. JMU has to come back, but they beat Troy. So Tulane gets in the playoff too. They played a crazy rainy game. And we also got to watch Boise State beat down on UNLV one last time before they leave. So we know some of the playoff matchups. Alabama going to Norman, Oklahoma in the first round. Miami going to Texas A&M, College Station. Tulane going back to Ole Miss. They played there once before. And JMU goes to 5th-seeded Oregon. But the best game this weekend was the Big Ten championship game. What happened, Kyle?
Yeah. My opener specifically is Heisman Mendoza. But that game in general is a crazy one. I think we all, going into the game, we're like, yeah, Indiana's a cool story, but they're not going to beat Ohio State. And then it kept on going on. We're like, oh, shit, maybe they have a chance. And then once that missed field goal happened and Indiana got the ball back with, 3.5 minutes or whatever, it really became, you don't have to do too much, but, get some very tough first downs against the Ohio State defense. It's been the number 1 ranked defense in college football the entire year, pretty much. And for Mendoza, you look at the stat line as a whole, I know there's going to be people like, oh, 300 yards or, 20 completions or a couple touchdowns or anything like that. But ever since the first quarter, he played about as good as you could possibly play against that Ohio State defense that probably has, 4 first-round picks on it right now? 4, maybe even 5, who knows? But he looked great, whether short, intermediate, or long. He's making the throws where they needed to be, moving out of the pocket against a good pass rush, using his feet when he needed to. And I think, as we've said it now at this point, he solidified himself as the QB1 in this draft class. And if it's a team that needs a quarterback going number 1, he will be the number 1 overall pick. And that's got to feel good for him, got to feel good for his brother and his entire family. And what a crazy post-game interview. That was nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw people saying, what an idiot. I don't want this guy as my franchise quarterback. I mean, would you rather say, fuck Ohio State, I'm so much better than them?
You rather have Diego Pavia or Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, it's the best possible interview that you could have had, I think. And you want your quarterback to be a dork. Saw TikTok about that, and dorks at QBs are usually a good thing. Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow's a dork. Called Patrick Mahomes a dork. I don't know if I see that, but regardless, Heisman Mendoza probably going to get the Heisman on Saturday. In my eyes, I would see has a phenomenal game against Ohio State. Moving on, though, into our defensive player, and rookie of the weeks. Against our player of the week, who'd you choose?
A lot of skill players had season highs this week, but I went in a different direction because the real Josh Allen is back. The Bengals were rolling early in Buffalo, and they definitely could have won this game, but Josh Allen comes back really strong, 4 total touchdowns, 0 picks, 250 through the air, 78 on the ground, and they scored 39 points. So that's why I went with Josh Allen. I feel like his game held the most weight.
Yeah, Josh Allen's great choice. I couldn't decide between him and Puka. I know Puka did it in more of a blowout fashion, but all of his 7 catches felt like they were ridiculous catches. Had a couple of touchdowns, 167 through the air. So I went co-players of the week with
Okay.
him and Josh Allen. Like I said in the past, I don't really look at the stat lines too much now anymore for this. I just, since we're able to watch all the games and feel like who had the most impact. And I think Puka and Josh Allen definitely top that list. Defensive player of the week.
Yeah, I hate to do it, but I think the right thing to do here is go back to back Buffalo Bills with Christian Benford. He has the pick six on Joe Burrow that completely flipped the game, and he also had a sack in that one too.
Yeah. Maybe this is why I didn't just straight up give it to Josh Allen, because the Christian Benford pick six was probably the craziest play that we saw this entire week. And that included a play where a quarterback threw an interception and fumbled in the
Yeah.
exact same play. Benford catching the screen pass, not on like a tip or anything like that. He just caught it straight up, and you don't really see that at all from, linemen or, yeah, I know he's not a lineman, but a guy trying to go up and make a play like that. Just a ridiculous play. Outran Jamar Chase to get the touchdown as well too. Dashing through the snow is always a cool line to hear announcers saying we got that there with Christian
Yeah.
Benford. So defensive player of the week from the Bills. And then rookie of the week, a ton of good performances.
Yeah, Cam Ward may have won the battle of rookie quarterbacks this week, but Shedeur Sanders had the better game. And they both need to get some better receivers around them, of course. But I just despise watching Jerry Jeudy. So I feel a little worse for Sanders in that situation. So 364 passing yards. That's the second best in the league this week. 3 touchdowns with one on the ground, too, his first career rushing touchdown. And they shockingly give up 31 to the Titans and lose. But I thought Sanders played the best game of all the rookies.
Yeah, what a great game this actually was between the Titans and Browns. The over-under going into it was like 35.5. It was one of the lowest over-unders that we've seen this entire year. It ends up being a 31-29 game where the Browns almost come back from down 14 or 16, whatever it was in the final couple of minutes. Shedeur Sanders looked great. Like you said, he's my rookie of the week as well, 223 for 42, 364 through the air, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. But did have a rushing touchdown as well too, and was his team's leading rusher in this game as well. Picking Shedeur also because they just couldn't run the ball with Quinshawn or Dylan Sampson or whoever they tried to get the ball to. So when Titans defense knew the pass was coming, it didn't really matter for Shedeur. He was able to get the job done. Utilized Harold Fannin, which we both like.
Yeah.
That was good to see. Obviously, Titans won that game. Cam Ward, not the most glorious stat line, but I thought he looked good as well too, as he has really in all of his games these past 5 weeks. And maybe another player of the week shout out to a guy that's not going to get it, but probably deserves it if it was a 8-win team instead of a 2-win team. Tony Pollard, crazy day on the ground, 25 for 161, 2 long touchdowns. So shout out to him as well too. But Shedeur Sanders for me, losing quarterback, but winner of the rookie of the week. Now into our top 16 power rankings, which we did just 2 weeks ago. So back on our normal schedule here, but it feels like a lot has changed in the past 2 weeks. Is there anybody that you want to talk about that was not on your list last time that is on your list, or vice versa, before we get into it?
Yeah, we'll start off with teams that aren't on the list. Baltimore, I'm going to knock out. They looked horrible against Pittsburgh, and it's just not rolling right now with Lamar missing time. They're not on the same page. And Tampa Bay, they're still alive because their division sucks, but I just didn't feel like putting them on yet either.
Yeah, I feel Pittsburgh isn't on here. I don't think I have a single team from that division on my list this week. I just don't think anybody in that division is really worth a top 16 spot right now. And then Kansas City is off my list for the first time in the existence of us doing this, in the existence of podcast history. Kansas City Chiefs are not a top 16 team for me, despite having a plus 63 point differential, which is kind of crazy. But maybe that's just due to playing the Raiders. Anyways, number 16.
All right, let's start it off with the Indianapolis Colts. 8-5, but they're dropping 11 spots because they're officially in panic mode. But that's well known considering who they just brought onto the practice squad. Daniel Jones is done. He's out for the year. I actually like Riley Leonard in this offense. I compare him to Daniel Jones before the draft, but now he's banged up too. So you just know this is going to end horribly for the Colts. And I'm thankful that the Jets have their next 2 first-round picks.
Number 16, down one spot is where I put the Dallas Cowboys at 6-6-1. Rough loss this past week against the Lions on Thursday Night Football. But if you were to go on that 3-week stretch and say, hey, you'd win 2 out of 3 with your wins coming against the Eagles and the Chiefs, I think Cowboys fans would take that, even with how delusional they are. Final 4 games of the season: Vikings, Chargers, Commanders, Giants. Real chance that they could win out there. Real only big test is against the Chargers there. And if they're sitting at 10-6-1, the Eagles playing the way that they're playing, maybe there's a chance they get in. Who knows? But Dallas is fun to watch. And their defense is, even allowing 44 points, I think their defense is a bit better than what's being advertised. Number 13 or 15. Jeez.
15. Yeah. So I do have Pittsburgh on my list. I picked them instead of Dallas to be on here. 7-6. You know how I feel about the Steelers, but they look way better than Baltimore. And however you feel about Aaron Rodgers too, you got to give some respect that he's been able to get back up every time he gets drilled, because these AFC quarterbacks have just been getting annihilated every week, I feel like. And Pittsburgh's pretty tough. You give them that. They're tough every year, even if they aren't very exciting. So they finally make a list for me.
Number 15, getting back into the rankings, even though they haven't been much better, is where I put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, sitting at 7-6 right now, but losers of the last 4 out of the last 5, and just a rough loss this past weekend against the Saints at home. Maybe I'm less harsh on them because I do believe the Saints with Tyler Shuck are actually a solid team, and I've been a believer of that for a couple of weeks now at this point, going back to our original rankings that we did. But Tampa Bay, I think they'll be winning on Thursday. They get Mike Evans back, hopefully. Still a couple more games against the Panthers. So even with these scuffles, like, everything that they need is right in front of them still, and that's a good spot to be. So Aaron Boone phrase was saying everything's right in front of them, but it's true. Tampa Bay, number 15. On to 14.
All right, I got Kansas City still on the list. They're moving down from 11. And yes, it's been a complete disaster this season, but I still would not want to play these guys at all. I don't think anyone would be surprised if they won out either, got to 10 wins. They could not stop Dallas. They get shut down by Houston. But coming up, we have Raiders and Titans on the schedule. That's kind of perfect to end off the season. Maybe get them in a rhythm. Then you have to play Denver, I think, and then the Raiders. Maybe that is the tiebreaker game right there. Raiders not very competitive, so I'm not going to pick the Raiders to win that.
Yeah. I guess I'll say my Chiefs spot here since I don't have them on. The Week 18 game against the Raiders, I just hope that game matters, because I don't want the Chiefs going into that game knowing it doesn't matter for them and putting out some QB that we've never heard of and purposely find a way to make the Raiders win that game so they don't get the first overall pick and making things bad where they don't need to be bad for me. So Kansas City, just be alive for 4 weeks. Don't make the playoffs, be alive. Number 14, though, for me, is where it's locked. The Carolina Panthers on a bit of a roll right now. Winners of 2 of the last 3, of course, just had this bye week. Before that, a crazy, ridiculous win over the number 1 seeded for power rankings Rams for both of us last time that we did this. What a weird year. I've been so confused on even if Carolina should be a top 16 team for me, because they do have losses, by 30 points to a couple teams this year. They lost to the Saints by 10. They lost to the Cardinals earlier in the year, but they feel different at this point. Same thing with the Bucs on the opposite side. They have 2 more matchups with each other, so everything is out ahead of them. And they currently have a 1-game cushion, which is good. So, or they don't have a 1-game cushion, but if they win those games, then they will. So, Carolina, number 14. Number 13.
At 13, I got the Jaguars, the 9-4 Jaguars, only at 13, because this is one of those situations where I completely trust their defense, but I only feel comfortable moving them up 1 spot because the Chargers are the only team we've yet to talk about who probably wouldn't be a massive underdog for Jacksonville if they were to go head to head. And I feel like since we never got to see them play the Colts at full strength, their resume is kind of incomplete right now, especially with Kansas City. Their biggest win ended up being pretty bad this year, too. So I only moved them up one spot.
Number 13, moving down 8 spots, is where I have the Colts. Once the top 5 team in both of our power rankings have fallen mightily now that Daniel Jones is out for the season, and they're now relying on Grandpa. Yeah, that's right, Grandpa Philip Rivers, which is just a ridiculous narrative in itself. But even before that, the Colts were sliding. And maybe it's a bit of a shock that I still even have them on this list, considering that you didn't. But I think that just says more about the teams below them on this list than what the current state of the NFL is. And I think it's, probably 10 to 12 really top heavy teams. And after that, a bit of a jumble of mid. And I think the Colts now are in that jumble of mid, loses a 4 out of 5. And these next 4 games, if Philip Rivers is playing quarterback, Seahawks, Niners, Jags, Texans, end the year. I mean, I don't, for Philip Rivers' sake, I don't want to see him play the Texans defense. Like, that would just be like senior brutality. Like, that would just be bad to see. We'll hit on Riley Leonard, though. I thought he looked better than what I expected him to look like against the Jags as a thrower. Riley Leonard, as we know, is a runner, is a very athletic guy, has the ability to make plays on the ground. I thought they'd run the option a bit more. Maybe it's because he got hurt and they didn't, but him throwing the football wasn't that bad either. And I'd say if he's the quarterback for me, week 16, gets the Jags again, fresh slate 0-0 start, I'd be okay with him being a starting quarterback there.
Look better than Brady Cook.
Yeah, looks better than probably what we're going to see from Philip Rivers, too. Yeah. So, number 12.
All right, number 12 is where I got the Eagles. So I'm going to give them a -8 instead of the 11 I gave to the Colts. So we're kind of flip-flop on these two teams right now. The Eagles' offense has been atrocious for way too long now, and it's not a game script thing anymore because if Saquon doesn't break that one for 50-plus yards last night, they don't even go to overtime against the Chargers. There's a massive Jalen Hurts problem right now, but they are still 2 games up on Dallas. I just think they look more like the Steelers than they look like the defending champs, which is, like I just said, just a very average but tough team.
Philly is also my number 12 team. They moved down 9 spots for me. Yesterday's game was probably the one that we do need to hit on. And aside from the turnovers, that makes, of course, the turnovers are the thing that made them lose the game. But aside from those, 4 or 5 plays, I don't think Philly's offense looked that bad. I thought this is one of the more explosive days that we've seen from Saquon this year. Has his longest touchdown of the year, I believe, at 52 yards. A.J. Brown goes over 100, or not over 100. He's right at 100. Dallas Goedert has 8 catches for 78 yards. And it wasn't like, you're down 2 possessions, late drive in the game just to, get some yardage on there. Just there's the little plays went the opposite way for the Eagles here. And I know it's been a rough stretch for them now, losing 3 in a row, Cowboys, the Bears, in a game that everybody expected them to win. But this end of the season schedule, like if they don't go 3-4 or 3-1 in these last 4, I think I'd panic. But they should beat the Raiders. They should beat the Commanders twice. And if they beat the Bills, I don't think anybody's, worried about them going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Number 11.
At 11, I got the Chargers +1 after last night. So I'm putting them 1 spot over the Eagles on that head-to-head. This is just a really weird Chargers team. Maybe it's because of their history of choking, but even though they're 9-4, undefeated in a really tough division, big upset on prime time. But whenever I watch them, it feels like I'm watching like a 6-6 team. They look terrible, and they've had a +6 stretch now, but I just didn't feel like putting them in the top 10. Luckily for them, we get to watch them play Dallas, Kansas City, Houston, and Denver again. So we should know if they're legit by then, but I couldn't put them in the top 10 yet.
Yeah, the Chargers are my number 11 as well, too. They were unranked the last time that we did this for me because they were coming off that crazy loss to the Jags where they just got destroyed. So I was very low on them. Since then, wins over the Raiders and the Eagles, of course, last night. And it does feel like I don't know what the fuck we have with the Chargers. Like they're a bit all over the place. They're starting to get a bit healthier, but as soon as they do, they start getting hurt again. Um, and I think those last four games, you feel like you should have a pretty good interpretation of what a team is through 13 games. But these last four games of the season, you kind of get a bit of everything. You get the Chiefs, solid offense, solid defense. You get the Cowboys, great offense, bad defense. You get the Texans, mid offense, great defense. And the Broncos, kind of same thing as the Texans. So you get a really good litmus test on how this team is going to perform against those type of teams. And I honestly have no clue how the Chargers are going to do. Herbert looks good. Some other parts don't look good. The run game was a little bit worrisome at times last night. But Amari and Hampton, hopefully he's, ramping up over these next 4 weeks as they will need him down the stretch to get the playoff spot in a rough, tough AFC. So,
Oh yeah.
Chargers number 11 on to number 10.
Number 10, I got San Francisco, 9-4. They get a +2, and I think these guys had their bye week at the perfect time. Even though the players might argue that they wanted an earlier one, they've been banged up. Everybody got hurt this week except for the Niners because they didn't play. And I'm not going to act like Fred Warner and Ayuk are going to come running out anytime soon to save the team. But they've been able to beat all the bad teams since they have a great coaching staff. And that's pretty much their entire schedule. So they don't have any bad film out there. I kept moving them up, and here they are, top 10.
You saying the Niners triggered something in me because I realized I forgot to put the Niners in my list. So where I do find a spot for them is where I will put them. But number 10 for me is, I guess it'll be number 11. But yeah, let me just put them in here real quick of
Yeah,
where they
you
should
did.
be.
I've done that before.
We'll put them right here. So I'll do number 11. So I guess this is the top 17 rankings for me. Number 11 for me would be the Detroit Lions. Good win this past week against the Cowboys. I think it was the game where I kind of stopped believing a little bit in the Lions going into it. Obviously, they come out with the win. Now they play the Rams this upcoming week. I don't think anybody expects them to win that game either at this point. And if they do, I think we're all back in the Lions boat. If they don't, we're not super surprised at this point. So Lions fighting for a playoff spot at 8-5. And then my number 10 team, so we line up here,
Yeah.
is the Chicago Bears, 9-4. Keep surprising me every week. Game against the Packers, game against the Eagles, rather, I'll start there. It was definitely a game I was like, okay, yeah, the Bears aren't winning this one. Come out, look great, run the ball, the best we've ever seen since 1985 with the running backs, and just dominate the Eagles kind of wire to wire in that one. Versus the Packers, kind of expected the same thing. It's a cool story, but going into Lambeau winning that game, they don't. But they were 6 inches off of forcing that one into OT at least, and you never know what's going to happen there. So I'm surprised about this Bears team. I think they're better than what people have rated for them. I think this win streak the win streak prior to this loss this past week is starting to make me believe in them. +4, top 10 team now for me. Which brings us to number 9.
All right, number 9, I got the 8-5 Houston Texans moving up from 13, the most dangerous defense in the NFL right now. Just ask Rashee Rice. He got beaten up in that one. That was the most uncomfortable I've seen Mahomes look since the Super Bowl against Todd Bowles. So if Stroud can keep the ship going in the right direction, these guys could rip off a crazy win streak to finish off the season. But I'm not going to go quite there yet. I want to see a little more.
Number 9 is where I put the Niners. This will be the spot that I do locate them. I don't have where they were last rankings, but I think it's up a couple of spots. 3-game win streak, all 3 games, Cardinals, Panthers, Browns, they felt very comfortable in. But it is, the thing with the Niners that we discussed going into the year, the schedule is so light that there's not really a ton of tests on their schedule. And at this point, the big tests that they've had, Rams a couple of weeks ago, Texans a couple of weeks before that, Buccaneers a couple of weeks before that, all did not go well. And I know they have wins over the Seahawks and Rams early in the season, but you want to win the games late as well too. And I just don't know if I feel that against the Niners. Then again, also Seahawks, top couple of teams in the league. Texans, I think, are up there as well too. So I don't know how much confidence I have in them to make a run, but I do have a confidence in them beating the bad teams. And
Yeah.
that's what they should do with the Titans and probably the Colts now at this point in these next couple of weeks. So playoff spot it is for the Niners. Number 8.
At number 8, I got the Chicago Bears 9-4. I had them at 9 last time, so they get a +1 for beating Philly. But the issue here is that they're still 1-3 in the NFC North, which is not ideal. The defense is just as questionable as Detroit, but they've been taking the ball away like crazy, so it hasn't mattered yet. So, massive game coming up Sunday Night Football against Green Bay. That'll be a pretty big test. Can they hang with the big boys of the NFC? So far, so good.
Number 8 for me is where I put the Buffalo Bills. They're up 3 spots for me. Last time we did these rankings, they were coming off of that Thursday night game against the Texans where it was like, oh shit, Buffalo could really be in trouble this year. Since then, they respond, blowout against the Steelers and a comeback win against the Bengals. It was kind of like this, perfect scenario where we've seen the Bills have a couple of these times of the past like 5 or 6 years where it's like they have a rough loss and we're like, oh, maybe Buffalo is not going to do anything, and then they just get right the next couple of weeks, and they've done that so many times at this point that you can kind of just, allow them to have these fault losses and just move on from it. Now at this point, end of the season is interesting. Patriots and Eagles are the 2 real big games on there. If they lose to the Patriots, I think we can definitively say, New England is the best team. Definitely in the AFC East, but maybe even the AFC as well too. If they tie it, then Buffalo's back in there as potentially being the best team in the AFC. But they're a couple games behind the Patriots. That's going to make it tough for them to win the division, get the 1 seed, and we know that's what matters a ton for Buffalo because they want teams coming out there instead of having to play or getting to play in the dome or whatever come January. So Buffalo up 3 spots. On to number 7.
I'm going to move Detroit up 1 spot because I still think they're better than the Bears. They can put up a ton of points, and if they want to get into the top 5, they're going to have to play better against the Rams this week. But there's still a ton of litmus tests for this team too. We could potentially be the next time we talk up here, we could have the same 16 teams, but all completely flipped around because there's some big games coming up, and this Detroit Rams game is the one I want to see before I move them up or down a bunch. So just moving teams around a little bit up until we get to our top couple teams here.
Number 7 is where I put the Jacksonville Jaguars. They move up 9 spots. Winners of 4 in a row. They had pretty much 3 dominant wins and then a game that they played really bad against the Cardinals and still find a way to win that game. And a Cardinals team that we know has put up some points recently, definitely some yardage in the past, 8 games or whatever, Jacoby Brissett. But the Jags look good. I know Trevor Lawrence has struggled, but ever since they got Jacoby Myers and Brian Thomas back, that offense looked a whole lot better than what it originally did. Defense, I think, has been solid too over this even last 8-game stretch now at this point, ever since that rough game against the Rams in London. I thought they've been solid. And they're in a great spot, sitting at 9-4. Split the season series with the Texans and still have 1 more to go with the Colts, but good end of season schedule as well too. So I like the Jags up 9. Number 6.
All right, 6. I'm going with Buffalo +4 because Josh Allen looks great again. Last week against Cincinnati, we've talked about it. He was great, but so was the defense in that one, and really haven't been a problem for a few weeks now. That was the main issue in the first half of the season, but we'll see if they could slow down the Patriots in Foxborough. Another one of those big games we've been talking about today. Before we move them up or down, we got to see them on the road against the Patriots. If they can hold them to 17 points, they could definitely be back up in the top 5.
Number 6, up 2 spots, is where I slot the Houston Texans, winners of 5 close games in a row. A very winnable end of season stretch as well too versus the Cardinals, Raiders, Chargers, and Colts. I like the Texans. I think they are a struggle for any team to play against. They're probably the most uncomfortable team to play against in the AFC right now, I'd say. But if they're going on the road to Denver or New England or even Buffalo in the playoffs, I don't know how confident I feel because CJ Stroud, as much as I love watching him play, he's got like 5 or 6 throws a game that he should make, and he just doesn't. And it's very frustrating because you know it's there. He just overshoots these guys, and that's going to be a problem when it comes to 3rd and 8 in the AFC divisional round, where if you make this throw, you're going to go to the conference championship. I just don't trust him in comparison to these other QBs in the AFC right now that have been pretty solid for these last stretch of games. Number 5.
Number 5, I got the 9-3-1 Green Bay Packers. And they're starting to get some guys back. So they're going up 2 spots. Things get a lot easier for Jordan Love when he's got Watson and Jacobs and Jaden Reed. And, I still believe that Tucker Kraft is that X factor guy they needed to go win the Super Bowl. But for now, they've taken care of business. They've beaten Detroit and Chicago, so they're back in the top 5.
Number 5, up 2 spots is where I put the Denver Broncos. It was a comfortable win against the Raiders this past week, even though the scoreboard showed a 7-point game. It was really a 17-point game for the majority of it, and the Raiders never really had a chance. Next 4, Packers, Jags, Chiefs, and Chargers. Looking excited to those because those are going to be good games, especially the Packers this next week. Going to be a good test against a good defense. Number 4.
All right, number 4, I got Seattle. They're moving up from 6, a couple spots, so back inside the top 5 once again. 2 blowout wins in a row, and now they get to play the Colts at home. It's perfect timing for them. I just got to see them beat the Rams in 2 weeks if I'm going to put them at the top, though. I'm not ready to do that, but I know a lot of people have them in the top 2.
Number 4, not moving at all, is where I put the Patriots. It's funny with the memes. If you look at Tankathon and the top, 8 picks or whatever, you'll see a screenshot of that on Twitter and oh, it's the Patriots schedule for the last 8 weeks or whatever, because they just had the Niners schedule of the AFC this year, and they've done well with it. Don't get me wrong, but I think that's why teams aren't quite sold on them, despite their 11-2 record. Couple of fun tests these next 2 weeks: Bills and Ravens. And if they win both of those games, I know both those teams have looked beatable this year, but I think there's going to be a lot more people sold on the Patriots. As of right now, though, they don't move at all for me. Number 4. Number 3.
All right, number 3, Denver Broncos, same spot as last time. If Denver gets smoked by Green Bay, then I'll move them down and apologize to you because I know you don't like them. But even though it's been ugly, they've still won 10 in a row now. That includes Kansas City, Houston, Philadelphia. They control their path to the 1 seed, which might be crazy, but they've been doing it. They've been doing exactly what they need to do, winning the game.
Number 3, up 3 spots, is where I put the Green Bay Packers, winners of 4 in a row and back-to-back-to-back divisional wins. Since our last rankings, wins over the Lions on the road on Thanksgiving, and then a tough win in Lambeau against the Bears on this past Sunday. We're back onto the Packers. This is the team that we had at very high in our rankings early in the year. They have a crazy loss to the Browns, crazy loss to the Panthers. I go, shit. But since then, they've been good. They've been fine. Toyotathon, Jordan Love is a legitimate thing somehow. He's been great. So Packers up 3 spots to number 3. Number 2.
Number 2, I am keeping the Patriots. Denver has the tiebreaker for the real life 1 seed, but here's the thing. I've seen a lot of gimmicky Patriot teams in my history, but these guys are actually good. They have played once since our last ranking. It was the Giants game, I think. Yeah. And that's a game I thought was going to be a complete trap game, being a big East Coast rivalry, but they smacked them. Drake May looks really good. This is their best defense since Belichick and Stephon Gilmore were there. I think they're pretty good.
Number 2, not moving at all, Seattle Seahawks. And when I look at this team, I see a lot of parallels between them and the Texans. These super violent, turnover-forcing defenses, with quarterbacks that are kind of questionable, run games that are kind of questionable, legitimate wide receiver one. Outside of that, you don't really know if there's some crazy guy on their team or anything like that. They're very similar. I just think Sam Darnold's a little bit better than CJ Stroud right now, and maybe I'll buy my word saying that in a couple of weeks. But I think that's what it is. I don't see Sam missing as many throws as what I do with CJ. So Seattle stays at number 2, and they're also 10-3 instead of 8-5, so that helps. Number 1.
Yeah, it looks like we're keeping the Rams at the top, 10-3. And of course, right after we declare the Rams an elite team, they go out and lose to Carolina. But they come out really strong against the Cardinals. They dropped 45 points. So I'm going to keep them at the top because their offense is scarier than every AFC team we've talked about today. Maybe their defense will actually be a problem when they rematch against Seattle. And, when we come back to this in 2 weeks, we can flip them around again. I can put them up where you have them, or maybe even number 1. But that's the game we're looking for. Can Seattle slow down Sam Darnold again? Or excuse me, the Rams.
Yeah. Yeah, the Rams are number 1 for me as well too. Panthers game was definitely confusing. We talked about it. We're like, as soon as we put this team at number 1, this is what happens. And they bounced back big time against the Cardinals, just destroy them. I don't think the Cardinals game, moved the needle for us or anything like that. But in comparison to these other teams, I don't think there's any reason to put another team ahead of them, especially when they've already beaten Seattle at this point. And I was thinking of that Carolina game, maybe it's like a weather thing with Matthew Stafford. Maybe that's why he didn't have the greatest game. And then I remember going back just a couple weeks ago, playing in London. He threw 5 touchdowns in the rain. So, it's not that. Although I do think the biggest thing for the Rams, their offense is great, but the run game at times hasn't been super explosive. This past week against the Cardinals, it was explosive. Blake Corum, some big runs in there. Kyron Williams, who's never really been a big run guy, didn't have a huge run, but they get in the end zone, had 84 yards. And if Blake Corum can be their big play running back, and this team can, legitimately put up 40 points every single game, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't be able to with what they have on offense and the ability that their defense has to get the ball back to them. So Rams stay at number 1.
Yeah, I pick up Corum in fantasy in a league just because of that. Not because I necessarily think he's the greatest athlete at running back in the world, but because it's such a great offense, he's going to get the ball at some point.
Moving on to the next segment that we have, our top 10 wide receivers. We did the quarterbacks a couple weeks ago. We did the running backs last week, and now we're on to the next skill position, the wide receivers. Is there anybody outside of the top 10 that you want to talk about before we get into it?
Of course, and I'm going to miss guys. I try to keep it simple, so I'll mention Rashee Rice, probably top 5 when playing a full season, but he hasn't his entire career. And then 2 young guys, if they had better situations, would definitely be up here. Drake London, Garrett Wilson. Let's get those guys healthy and a real quarterback.
4 honorable mentions. Malik Neighbors, first one.
Yes,
obviously hurt.
Yeah.
I think I had him at number 4 when we did this last year. So he was really high up. Not there anymore, of course, because he's hurt. Rashee Rice as well too. Maybe this is just the Chiefs hater in me, but I don't have him in here. I do think he's really close. But in comparison to the guys that I have, 9, 10, I would take those other guys over him. Devontae Adams is a guy that just barely left off. I know probably the best red zone guy right now, but I think there's other receivers that are a bit more versatile in their games right now. I think Chris Olave is a guy I've really enjoyed watching play this year. I know he's only on pace for just over 1,000 yards, but he's doing that with Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck. If this is Patrick Mahomes or Matt Stafford, I think we're probably looking at a guy that's getting close to 1,500 yards. So Chris Olave, honorable mention for me as we get into number 10.
All right, I am going to kick it off with Devontae Adams because I think we both really miss him, which is it's a unique thing to play back-to-back years, Raiders, Jets. And then now he's on the Rams. Of course, he's got to be much happier. But the reason I kept him on is because he's basically been a sure thing for his entire career. He's not slowing down either. He's got 14 touchdowns. If this holds, he will lead the league in touchdowns 3 separate times in his career, which is amazing.
Number 10, I'm starting off with A.J. Brown. One of the big ways I rank wide receivers is their ability to do different things. And whether it's a screen, whether it's a route, or whether it's a 9 route and he just gets to go deep and Jalen Hurts gets to throw it to him. A.J. Brown has the ability to do it all. I think he's one of the best guys after the catch. His contested catch ability is really good. And he's just fun to watch. And I know he's had a, huge narrative year this year, and I don't think he's going to put up the craziest amount of numbers, but A.J. Brown is still a top 10 receiver in my eyes. And if he was in a spot where he's getting, 80 catches at this point in the year, I think we'd be looking at A.J. Brown and say, yeah, no problem. He's there. But he still is in my eyes. Number 9.
At number 9, I got your guy, George Pickens, probably much higher on your list. But man, what a season. He's finally got his head on straight. And shockingly, it's in Dallas, not in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin. So who could have guessed this one? 8 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards already. He's become the perfect deep ball guy. And the reason why he's not up in the top 5 for me is because I'm not sure if I would still pick him as my wide receiver 1 if I was building a team trying to get to the Super Bowl. I don't know yet.
And number 9 for me is his teammate. CD Lamb is who I have here. And if you're just going on average yards per game, CD's at like 86 or something right now. Like he'd be a lot higher if you're just going based off of that. And I know, maybe he should be higher than this, but I think you got to look at how these offenses are scripted and how these games go. And obviously, Dallas is passing the ball a lot. But if he wasn't an offense that's passing the ball a lot, and say he was in even Philly, I don't think he's putting up this type of numbers, of course. But CeeDee Lamb's still great. The hands have been a bit of an interesting one this year. He's had some game-losing drops for them, namely Week 1 against Philadelphia. But he's been good still. Great after the catch. Great route runner. Makes a ton of plays. So CeeDee Lamb, number 9 for me. Number 8.
Number 8, I got CeeDee Lamb now. So back-to-back Cowboys. Lamb is just always making circus catches look easy, but also he'll drop the easy one and knock himself out 3 times a year doing it. But the thing is, in 3 less games than his teammate, he's got very similar volume. He's just not quite that red zone guy, but I wouldn't knock him too far for that. That's not really his style or his job anymore. But I still think he's top 10 too.
Number 8, a guy that I've really enjoyed watching this year, Nico Collins. Such a fun deep ball wide receiver, and his speed has really been something that surprised me. It's such a big frame. Really good around the sidelines as well, too, getting his feet down, making his acrobatic catches. Maybe not the guy that you're throwing screen passes to and then run a little bit. That's not really his archetype. But downfield, he's a stud. So Nico Collins, number 8 for me. Number 7.
All right, number 7, I also got A.J. Brown on the list. He's probably not 7th on the list of the most locked-in teammates at the moment, but when Jalen Hurts actually does throw him the ball, it's just like you said, man. He's always open. He's always getting a bunch of yak. There's receivers in very similar situations who don't have 800 yards and 6 touchdowns and 50 broken tackles this year, so A.J. Brown's fine.
Number 7 for me, maybe a bit of a shock, is where I put Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I can't fault the guy for this, but the offense is built around Amon-Ra for the most part. And there's so many creative ways to get this guy yards in that offense. That say if you Cincy, I don't trust Zach Taylor to make those plays, and Jamar Chase puts up numbers still. So that's not meant to fault Amon-Ra, but I'm just saying he's a good product of his environment. Still a great wide receiver, one of the smartest wide receivers in the league, great route runner. Great wherewithal of knowing, how to get open in coverage. Great at getting his feet down at the sidelines. Usually solid hands. He's had some rough games this year, I think. But every year in the past, it's always been a guy that has a lot of targets and a lot of catches that go with it. Sometimes you see a lot of targets and not a ton of catches. He's not like that at all usually. You're not the biggest frame, of course, so it's not like you're throwing a jump ball up to him. But he gets used in a way that he should, and I think Detroit does a good job of that. So Amon-Ra, number 7. Number 6.
I got Nico Collins. I feel like he mosses somebody on a big third down every single game. And I also feel like we're always saying if he could just finish the year healthy, he could hypothetically end up in the top 6 on one of these lists. So I did it. I moved him up, and he's on pace for some great things. Maybe less than 100 catches this time around because they run the ball a little more there, but he's still a big play machine.
Number 6, kind of just like Nico Collins, just the next tier up is where I put Drake London. Not the fastest, but catch radius is about as good as it could possibly be. I think he only has 6 touchdowns this year, but he could be a guy that has 15 touchdowns in a year realistically once he gets on the same page as a quarterback. Again, not a guy that you're throwing a screen pass to, but the catch radius is huge. Sideline ability is great, and he's always open. Even if he's covered, he's always open. Does not matter. On to number 5.
All right, number 5, I got Justin Jefferson, Jettis. We got to get this man a quarterback. The connection is not there with McCarthy at all. Even in a massive win last week, he has 2 catches for 11 yards. But I think we're all on the same page. It's obviously not his fault. I'm still taking him in, the hypothetical first round receiver draft here because he's amazing and he always is open. They gotta make some changes in Minnesota clearly because it's not his fault.
And number 5 is where I do put George Pickens. I did not think he would be a top 5 wide receiver in my eyes. Maybe it is also kind of a game script type thing. They're throwing the ball a ton in Dallas, and obviously in year 1 of that connection with Dak Prescott, they just hit it off. But George Pickens, used to be just that deep route guy to help spread out the offense. His ability with slants this year is ridiculous. And I know there's a lot of people that are on social media, calling him the next Michael Thomas in the way that he consistently just runs slants. But he's so good at doing that because of how scared the DBs are of his deep ball. And, you can't be in a bad spot at all on a deep ball with him because he is going to moss you. He's going to throw you to the ground and then get in the end zone. So you can't guard the slant the way that he does. And his ability after the catch this year has really been something that surprised me. I never think we'd see George Pickens to be the guy to, go get 20, 30 yards after the catch. But his ability to make these slants and then immediately turn around and run back down the sideline, he's done it like 15 times this year. Like it's ridiculous the stuff that he does. So George Pickens, number 5, and when it comes to catch radius as well too, deep ball, even if with him running a lot more slants this year, you throw it deep, like boundary, it doesn't matter. Like whatever it is, he's coming down with the football. Best catch radius in the league, I'd say. Number 4.
All right, number 4, I have Jamar Chase. If you have him at number 1, I'm not going to argue. And who knows, Burrow plays the whole year. Maybe he's up there battling for the Triple Crown too. But he's still managed to put up video game numbers with Jake Browning, Joe Flacco. There's just some other guys doing, I won't say doing more, but winning more games is a part of it probably. That's the tiebreaker here. They go up and catch more balls and win more games.
Number 4 is where I put Justin Jefferson. 15th in yards this year, but everybody knows like that's not a fault of him. Yeah. When it comes to getting open, this guy is elite. Route running is elite. Contested catch is elite. Red zone target elite. Hands elite. Like everything that he does is freaking amazing. And it's so frustrating to have a quarterback that just does not get him the football. And I think everybody, whether you have him in fantasy or not, is included with Justin Jefferson and being frustrated for the guy. Because when he does get the football, and he do just throw it in his general vicinity, he's going to go down and make a catch. I don't think there's any doubt in my game that, he's declined at all as a wide receiver this year. So that's why I don't drop him at all. Really, I just have a couple of guys that are having ridiculous seasons ahead of him. Number 3.
All right, number 3, JSN. The first season, they build their offense around this guy. He's on pace for Jerry Rice numbers, and Seattle has one of the most dangerous offenses ever, statistically. We'll see how far they get, but just amazing. It's one of those ones as a Jets fan too. Well, 19 guys passed on him, right? But, damn, we could have had JSN too. That would have been a perfect pairing, but Seahawks got him. They developed him. They waited till it was time, and now they're taking full advantage. This guy's a freak.
Yeah, JSN's my number three as well too. Maybe a bit shocking that we won't have him at number one, considering the season that he's having and being over 200 yards ahead of anybody else in the league. Um, but they just scheme him up so well in Seattle, and the stuff that he does, like you would think as a guy that's 6 foot 195 that he wouldn't be the greatest deep shot guy, but I mean he's the best deep shot guy in the league right now. When it comes to big plays, nobody's better in the NFL, and it's not even like he's having to make these crazy contested catches. He's just routing guys up, getting past them, and torch them, whether you do double cover him or not. The yak game as well too has been something that's fun to see with him. Even going back to Ohio State, like there's nothing really that like crazy stands out about his game, I guess to say, just from the naked eye. But he's really good at everything. And when you have a combination of all these, great traits, but not the best traits, you still get a pretty damn good wide receiver. And that's what Jackson Smith and Jigba is. So number three for me with JSN. Number two.
All right. Number two is where I have my big outlier pick here because I have Amon-Ra St. Brown over JSN and Jamar Chase. And it's a lot of the same things that you mentioned, but I kind of took it and thought differently about it. I think if you needed any more proof to know what is the one thing that makes the Lions go round, go watch that game against Dallas. He wasn't supposed to play. He was on one leg, and he just makes everybody around him better. And JSN and Chase are going to get more yards. But I feel like I'm always going to value the leadership and the blocking and the route running higher if you have it all, like St. Brown does. I think he might be the most well-rounded receiver, and that's why I didn't drop him this year.
Number two is where I put Jamar Chase. And Jamar Chase, I think, is the most scheme-proof wide receiver in the NFL because he's a guy that you can throw one of those bullshit, corners playing off coverage. You don't have any extra blockers. You just tap the ball and throw it to him right away where you're just one-on-one with the guy. He's going to go make a guy miss, get at least 7 yards for you and set you up to be in a good spot on the next down. And I don't think there's really anybody in the NFL that I trust more with that. And Jamar Chase, if he was in the Detroit Lions offense or in Seattle's offense or even in LA with Matt Stafford, like this guy would just put up 2K every single year. And that's no shot to Joe Burrow. It's not because of him him not getting those numbers. It's because of Zach Taylor and their very vanilla offense that they run. But he's able to do anything. He is elite as a route runner, elite downfield, and just the best yak receiver in the NFL. He is A.J. Brown on steroids is how I would call it. He's exactly that, but better, and he's faster. And it's my favorite wide receiver to watch, I'd say, at this point. Whenever he gets the football in his hands, he's elite. And he's elite before it, too. So, but number one, I think we've aligned here, which is cool.
Yeah, once again, I was kind of trying to calculate your list too. So Puka Nacua. This guy just doesn't make any bad plays. Just one small example from last week. Stafford's timing with Devontae Adams. I don't know how much you watched of that game. It was a blowout, but at least in the first half, the timing from Stafford to Devontae was a little bit off. They couldn't get into the end zone this week. So then he just started force feeding Puka in double coverage, and he caught every single ball thrown his way. Maybe the most unguardable guy since he's been drafted, which is not that long ago. And what an incredible story. Obviously, Nico Collins and Jamar Chase and Jefferson are going to be a little more physically gifted than Puka. But the way Puka's been able to just not even care who's on the other side of the field and grab every ball has been awesome. That's why he's at number one for me.
Yeah. When it comes to wide receivers and ranking them, I think that this is the most fun list to do because it's the most subjective.
Yeah.
In terms of like what you like from a wide receiver. And Puka Nacua, even though I said Jamar Chase is the most scheme proof, I think Puka Nacua is the most quarterback proof in the NFL when it comes to wide receivers. Even though he's had Matt Stafford for his entire career, so it's pretty easy to say it's because of Matt Stafford. But this guy is just so comfortable within the uncomfortable, and that's not something that we see a ton from wide receivers in the NFL. His catch radius is ginormous, whether it's double covered, triple covers. He's going to find a way to go get the football. He's a guy that you could throw screen passes to. He's a guy that you can, have a 3rd and 5 slant to. Like, he can do whatever you need from a wide receiver to get the football and get in the end zone, and he does it. He's tied for first in the NFL in catches, second in yards. I know the touchdowns are a bit lower because he gets the 99 yards and then fade route to Devontae, but like Puka could do that too if he wanted to. Like, he could easily have 20 touchdowns right now. They just decided to go in a different way.
He will next year.
But, yeah. Puka is the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. And I don't think anybody's debating that unless you're a Seattle fan and you hate the Rams. But anyways.
Yeah.
That's what we got there. Moving on.
All right. On to the second half. A little bit of college football, a little bit of draft, and then, actually, we had a couple big moves in MLB too, so I'm sure you'll have some stuff to talk about there. We'll start with college football, right? The CFP field is set. We don't need a pick for that yet. They got a week off. They got Army, Navy, and Boise's playing Washington. Those are like the only games we're missing. But based off of what we talked about last week, I don't think the committee messed up the teams or anything like that. The whole time they were hinting like, hey, Alabama's going to get in the way we've set this up. BYU is not. Notre Dame lost to Miami. So even though I wanted to watch Notre Dame, I get it. They didn't deserve it. The part that not everyone was on board with here was the double G5 teams making it. Tulane, JMU. But honestly, I think it's always been like this. If you don't win a top conference, you have to go out, play some tough teams, go 11-1, go on the road. That's why Boise plays Oregon every year. That's why JMU plays Louisville and Ole Miss. And it sounds like we're going to a 14-team playoff with only one G5. In my opinion, I don't really know what to expect because I think we have a power 2, not a power 4 right now. That's what the committee made it seem like. I would love to hear your opinion on this because, like I said, Boise's going to keep playing Oregon and Notre Dame, and Tulane's going to keep playing Ole Miss. And if Notre Dame's toughest game is at Stanford or at home against USC, we got to change something here, man.
You said Notre Dame's toughest game is at Stanford, which just cracked me up. But I think the committee got it right first. I'll say that, especially when it comes to Notre Dame, Alabama, Miami. I think this is the way that it had to be if you wanted the state of college football to not just freak the fuck out. Because if you leave Miami out and you put Notre Dame in, then say goodbye to all those early season fun games that we get to see in between conferences because teams are just gonna schedule them, especially if you're in the SEC or Big Ten. Because if you already have a good season in those schedules or in those conferences, you won't have to play anybody extra to be convinced that you're a good team. And then Alabama, I don't think you should harm a team for playing in the conference championship, even though I do think it should matter. I don't think if there's teams that didn't make the conference championship that are also going to be in the playoff, then like you can't have Alabama be hurt because of that. So I'm happy that it did the way that they did. I think they need to push Notre Dame to get into a conference, and punishing them for that and not being in a conference, I think is okay. Even though now we have a spot where if they're, even in the top 12 rankings these next couple of years, whatever, like they get an auto bid at this point, which I don't like. But then maybe the CFPs, like fuck you, I'll just put you at 13. And they can do that. There's nothing stopping that. Like that's complete subjective rankings that they have. So I was happy with how the committee did that. I think if they did it the other way around, there would have been some big arguments made to change stuff up. JMU getting in, and Tulane. Obviously, Tulane deserves to be there. I think they're definitely the best Group of 5 team. JMU, if they decided to put Duke in, I wouldn't have been like terribly upset either. But I think JMU probably deserves the spots.
It's probably figured, hey, Miami's in. That's our ACC right there. Yeah. We're good.
Yeah, but then are you penalizing Duke or Virginia for playing in the ACC championship? Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's besides the point. That's a whole different scenario. Even though you can't really, I don't know. It's very confusing. I just think the committee did it right this year. I think JMU is probably the 12th team. I think the teams that got in should be the teams that get in. And yeah, maybe 14 or 16 will be the future. But even then, you're just creating more blowouts. Like all this stuff, I think is hilarious because at the end of the day, there's really like three teams that could legitimately win the college football playoff. Like there's no more than that. We're not seeing JMU. We're not seeing a group of five team ever win the Natty. Like that is impossible. It will
Yep.
never happen. There's nothing that can ever happen where that's going to happen. But maybe they just want to make a movie out of it. Who knows? Um,
Shout out to
anyways,
JMU though. They made every single Sun Belt team like an extra $4 million this year. Like I said last week, that's what it's all about, right? Sometimes you got to go out there, represent, and get your ass beat by Oregon for the good of the conference.
yeah. Anyways, moving on.
All
We'll
right.
talk about this more next week.
Yeah, when we got more time for sure. Um, I did a mock draft at work yesterday. Internet was terrible and it got deleted, but it's okay. I know what I want to talk about because the draft order has completely flipped. So let's just go through the top 10 a little bit and talk about what they would do because the Raiders have surpassed the Jets now in the order. Congratulations. But number one is the Giants. I think they totally would trade this pick if they picked there. They do play the Raiders later this year, probably not picking one. If they would pick there, it's probably a linebacker, maybe Arvell Reese, or trade back for a receiver. The Raiders at two, though, if they don't trade up to one, that's a perfect spot for Mendoza. I know we were kind of going at it in the chat a little bit, but I'd be very happy for you if you got a quarterback uh, in a perfect spot for it. The
Yeah.
Jets are at seven. So if they want to come up here, they would have to trade up to three Tennessee, four Cleveland, if Dante Moore is in this class. If he's not, then everybody's screwed. So let's just keep going down the list. Three is Tennessee. I think they're going to be fine with Cam Ward. Don't believe the stuff you hear about them trading Cam Ward. I don't know about that. Probably defense. Their defense is a wreck. They just gave up a bunch of yards to our guy, number four, Shadur Sanders in Cleveland. I think he's played well enough that they wouldn't take a quarterback either here. Maybe a receiver. This could be a Jordan Tyson spot if he's healthy going into the combine, of course. Number five is New Orleans. Again, I like you said, dude, Tyler Shuck looks pretty awesome so far. And maybe that's not your 10-year plan guy, but he could totally be your 4-year plan quarterback for New Orleans. Um, yeah, maybe someone could trade up to five if New Orleans is like, yeah, we're good. We don't need Dante Moore. We don't need Ty Simpson. Six is Washington. Their defense is old and slow and sucks. So this could be a Caleb Down spot. This could be a pass rusher spot. They're 3-10. I wouldn't play Jaden Daniels, man. Dude, I've been saying this since like week 3. Why do you even bring Jaden Daniels back in? This was not their year, and now they just set themselves back.
Because I have Terry McLaurin in fantasy. That's why. That's why I need to play him.
There you go, Kyle. Number 7 is the Jets. Of course, right? If you're picking in the top 5, and we're projected to end up 4, because, Brady Cook's playing quarterback right now. We're not going to beat anybody. Then that could be a potential Dante Moore, Ty Simpson spot. If not, they would probably take a receiver because, I love giving guys like Mechie and A.D. Mitchell an opportunity, but I think Mechie had like 4 or 5 drops last week. Like it's like, come on, we need to get some NFL level players out here. And luckily we got a ton of picks in this draft. So of course, quarterback would be number 1. Also, picking 8th, right behind the Jets, is the Cardinals, 3-10. I think they're probably a tier above, like the Jets, Raiders, Tennessee. They probably end up around 10, but they also need a quarterback. This is a team that could trade up for one because Kyler Murray got shut down. That's probably not because his foot hurts. It's probably not because he wants to play COD. It's because they don't believe in him. So definitely another quarterback spot. Number 9, of course, is the LA Rams, number 1 on the power rankings. Dude, another team that could potentially, and I wouldn't do it to you
Trade up to
in a
1.
mock draft. Exactly.
Yeah.
Trade up for Mendoza because they're one of the only teams that could afford to do that, even though Stafford might be pissed. If not, this could be a perfect Caleb Down spot too. Maybe take the best corner on the board. And then 10, Cincinnati. These guys need an edge rusher so bad. Hendrickson is probably not going to be playing for them again. So they're good for them. There's a ton of like 270-pound power rushers in this class. So there's kind of an outlook of the top 10 because teams like Miami and Dallas have been playing much better. They're not in that conversation anymore. Even Minnesota.
Yeah. Couple notes. I saw the Raiders currently have like a 40% chance to have the number one pick because the Giants' schedule is really easy. The Raiders' schedule is actually pretty hard down the stretch. So that's cool. Hopefully we get the number one pick and we don't have to worry about the Giants having it and trading up to or trading with the Rams and, ruin our hopes and whatnot. So the number one pick will be cool. Also, if they don't get the number one pick, I could definitely see the Rams doing it. But I think it'd be a complete McVay's choice on what he wants to do. Because we've heard rumors about him, potentially wanting to, I don't know if it's retire or leave or, go find something else to do. But we've heard rumors of that in the past. And maybe they say, hey, we can just get the quarterback that you want. And if you want Fernando Mendoza, we can just go ahead and get him right now for you to make you stay another 10, 15, 20 years, however long it is. So maybe that's the idea there. It's definitely possible. But if they win the Super Bowl and then have the number one pick, I think that would fucking suck for the rest of the league. So hopefully it's Raiders for my sake. And hopefully we don't take another Jamarcus Russell situation. Anyways, moving on.
Shout out Lane Kiffin.
Moving on to the MLB free agency update. We've had a good amount of stuff happen within the last 7 days. Last stuff that we ended off on last week was Cody Ponce going to the Blue Jays, Alek Manoah going to the Angels, stuff like that. So we'll pick up December 3rd. Cedric Mullins, 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Rays. Maybe platoon, I don't know, but still, a valuable outfielder there. Miguel Rojas back to the Dodgers. If it wasn't for that single homer, I wouldn't have even said that because I don't think he's that good of a baseball player. Anthony Kay comes back stateside and signed a 2-year deal with the Chicago White Sox. Probably going to be ended up a starter there, I'd imagine. Emilio Pagan signs back a 2-year deal with the Cincinnati Reds. He was an underrated closer for them last year and gets his spot there. December 4th, a big trade that we had, kind of. Johan Oviedo, Tyler Semenango, butchered that name 100%, and Adonis Guzman go to the Red Sox for Josh Stinson. I didn't butcher that one. Garcia and Jesus Treviaso butchered that one for sure. Underrated trade there. Johan Oviedo is I'd say the headliner from like a baseball nerd perspective. Great stuff. Just coming off an injury these past couple of years, but big time arm with elite stuff. I think can be a middle of the rotation arm. Still only 28 years old. Justinson Garcia for the Pirates now provides a need for them where they did not have a lot in the outfield and specifically a bat. Good hitting 23-year-old outfielder, right-handed bat with good pop. Definitely has a chance to be like the 3-hitter for next year. December 5th, not a ton of stuff. Marco Luciano claimed off of waivers from the Giants, goes to the Pirates, former top prospect there, so that's been interesting. Drew Romo, former top prospect for the Rockies, goes to the Orioles in a waiver deal. Osvaldo Bido, former A, goes to the Diamondbacks, not the Diamondbacks, the Braves. December 6th, the next day, we did have a couple of deals, or really just one deal. Harry Ford and Isaac Leon go to the Nationals for Jose Ferrer. I know people have been freaking out about this. I even posted on Twitter. People were thinking that the Nats just fleeced the shit out of the Mariners because Harry Ford's a top-tier prospect and Ferrar's a left-handed reliever. Jose Ferrer is legit. He does not walk people. He throws very hard. He does not allow a ton of hard contact. I know the ERA has been in the mid-4s in the previous years. But this is a guy under Seattle's pitching lab, can be probably a mid-2s. Not a crazy strikeout rate, but a big-time left-handed reliever that you can go to in really tough spots. And I think that's exactly what Seattle had in mind here. Harry Ford, the catcher for the Seattle Mariners is Cal Raleigh, so he wasn't going to fucking play. And I don't think Seattle is super incentivized to play some 23-year-old that doesn't have a ton of big league experience just because he's a top prospect right now, considering what their team is in. This is a win now move. Harry Ford can still be great. A little bit of big league experience and should be the immediate opening day catcher for the Nationals. I also saw Yoniel Correa got designated for assignment by the Rays. A lot of Rays fans actually weren't happy about this. This guy's got good strikeout stuff, just walks some guys. So that's the problem there. But maybe an interesting name if your team picks him up. 12-8, just yesterday, Michael Soroka, 1-year deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Potential starting pitching option for that team over there. And then today, couple moves. We got some free agency moves. Steven Matz agreed to a 2-year deal with the Rays. And maybe it's starter, maybe it's a reliever. Who knows? Maybe it's both because that's what the Rays do. Kyle Schwarber, 5 years, $150 million for the Phillies. I saw this notification right as I got in the shower, and I could just see breaking from Jeff Passan and didn't know what the rest of it was. So I was like, fuck. I immediately ran out of the shower, looked at my phone, and saw that he was going back to the Phillies. I'm like, oh, that's kind of boring. But regardless, Kyle Schwarber goes back 5 for 150. This is a little bit over the money that I had expected for him. But a lot of money for an outright DH. That's all he is at this point. It's just a DH. He just does not pitch. That's a lot of money.
Culture
but I think it'll be fine. Long term, Kyle Schwarber doesn't really have the profile that would regress too much with age. It's more like a Nelson Cruz build, which got better with age. It's kind of like wine. Edwin Diaz, about 5 minutes later, signed with the Dodgers, which is ridiculous. Dodgers, as we know, like their weakness, even though the best team in baseball was the bullpen, and it hurt them a lot of the times in the middle of the regular season. It didn't hurt them, obviously, in the grand scheme of things in the playoffs, but there's definitely some more stressful moments for them than what they needed to be. They have the money to go give out $69 million for 3 years to Edwin Diaz, who's been the best reliever in baseball, debatably over the last 5 to 6 years, and they get him on a 3-year deal. They don't have to go for 5 like how Edwin Diaz was originally wanting. They get a good deal there for him. Smaller trade, Vaughn Grissom goes from the Boston Red Sox to the Los Angeles Angels for Isaiah Jackson, 25th ranked prospect for the Angels. Isaiah Jackson is so not some crazy big prospect there. Just got drafted out of Mississippi State, I want to say. So young outfielder there. Don't know too much about him. And that's where we're at right now. Tomorrow, we'll probably have 8 deals, 4 trades, and some stuff that we'll need to talk about.
And we'll know where Kyle Tucker's going. Yeah.
But the biggest news, I'd say, in the MLB, the Chicago White Sox get the number 1 overall pick. Rock Tulowitzki, I don't even know how you say his last name completely, but Tulowitzki is a fun way to say it because it reminds us of Tulo. Yeah. He will be a White Sox come June or July, whatever month that is. And that is going to be a big-time get for the White Sox, immediately a top 10 prospect in all baseball. But we got to get to our bets because we only have a couple more minutes here. Layups, bold predictions last week. Layups were good. I had Houston plus 3.5 versus Kansas City. They went outright. Skyler has Boise -4 versus UNLV. They hit big time, as he's doing right now, even though nobody can see it. This week, I have the Eagles -11.5 versus the Raiders. Unless Kenny Pickett's playing this game, which could excite me. Revenge Pickett game, but if it's Geno, no chance. Like the Eagles are going to beat the shit out of us.
Yeah, same idea for me with my layup. Probably the number 1 overall pick of layups this week. Seattle -13.5 against the Colts. Nobody knows who is going to play quarterback. I think the only healthy guy that's actually on the active roster is former Boise State Bronco Brett Rippon, which he hasn't been good in 6 years. So they're in trouble.
Hey, neither has Philip Rivers. So last week, bold predictions, though. I had Cincy plus 215 against the Bills. Everybody knows how that game went, though. Skyler had Tulane and the Commies. Oof. The Commies got destroyed 31-0 against the Vikings, even with the Tulane victory. That goes red for both of us. Skyler, this week I have New Orleans moneyline plus 120 against the Panthers.
All right. I wanted to make it clear on here. This is college basketball I'm talking about, not football. Number 17, Arkansas is going to win at number 16, Texas Tech. Tech, great program, always in the top 25, always a top four seed in March Madness. But Arkansas and Coach Calipari looking great so far. They're like 7-2, and they got another short guard. Calipari short guards always play well. Darius A. Cup Jr., we'll see him in the NBA next year.
Name 3 players on Arkansas's basketball team.
Darius A. Cup Jr., Boogie Fland, and that's about it.
There you go. I couldn't have named one. So those people might not even be real. That's okay.
Those are the 2 6'1" guards that Arkansas or Kentucky always have.
But that'll do it. Next week, some more stuff. Hopefully, some more MLB stuff. So winter meetings this entire week. So we probably will get some more stuff there. That's cool. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week. And go Eagles, I guess, because I want the Raiders to lose.
Keep your stick on the ice.
New York Giants.
Good one.